Muri Zimbabwe, a retired general just spoke directly kuma Zimbabweans, and the message will make your neck snap. So, retired generals, vachimbotaura in general. Now this message is coming for you direct. Right. Pano pamzinda wevanhu muri Zimbabwe, the boldest voice in Zimbabwe has ever heard. Something happened yesterday that has literally never happened before in Zimbabwe's political history. A retired lieutenant general, a man who spent his entire adult life in uniform, who commanded troops, who built military institutions, who served this country for 30 years, got onto X, formerly Twitter, looked the entire nation in the eye and said, "I am done being quiet." No press conference, no government channel, no carefully worded statement filtered through some spokesman in a cheap suit. Just a general, a platform, and a message so calculated, so precise, so absolutely loaded with meaning that the political establishment in Harare reportedly read it 3 times trying to figure out exactly how scared to be. Oh. Ladies and gentlemen, retired Lieutenant General Winston Gauke Mapranga has entered the chat again, and he did not come to make friends. Towards a statement about this and this, but now this statement is coming to you direct. Who is this man? Because he is not just anybody. Before we get into what he said, let us establish who is saying it. Because context matters enormously here. Mapranga is one of a growing chorus of senior military figures who once formed the backbone of Zimbabwe's liberation struggle and were instrumental in Mnangagwa's rise to power following the November 2017 military intervention. Right. This is not an opposition politician looking for airtime. This is not some social media commentator operating from a flat in Johannesburg. This is a man who endured the bush, buried comrades, and marched toward a future that had not yet been promised to anyone. A man who earned 30 years of credibility in uniform before he earned the right to sit down and speak freely. And when he speaks, he has made it abundantly clear a soldier's oath is to Zimbabwe and its constitution, not to individuals, not to political factions, and certainly not to self-appointed political enforcers operating on social media. That last part was aimed at Themba Mliswa, by the way, and it hit like a brick. Now, the statement decoded line by line, let us get into the actual message Mapranga posted on X yesterday. Because every single line is a chess move, and this man plays chess like someone who has nothing left to lose and everything left to prove. Line 1, Zimbabwe, my fellow Zimbabweans, in life you must take risks, but they must be calculated ones. Translation, we hear you, we see the pressure, we know you want action yesterday, but the people screaming, take to the streets now, are not the ones who will deal with the consequences. Calculated, not emotional. Calculated. Line 2, Zimbabwe. Do not be pushed by pressure from people around you. Haste breeds mistakes. Strategy wins wars, not noise. Strategy, kwete noise, kwete my emotions. Right. Translation, Zimbabwe, put down Twitter for a second. The loudest voice in your mentions is not necessarily the wisest voice in the room. An attempt to undermine the constitutional framework could provoke a decisive response, but that response must be on their terms, not the regime's. The generals are not going to be baited into acting prematurely. Mnangagwa would love an excuse to paint this as a reckless military uprising. Mapranga is explicitly refusing to give him that gift. Line 3, Zimbabwe. The future belongs to those who prepare in the shadows and strike with precision. And here is where I need you to stop scrolling and really listen to this sentence. Prepare in the shadows, strike with precision. This is not motivational poster language. This is a man who spent 3 decades commanding military operations telling you in plain English on a public platform that something is being prepared quietly, deliberately, and when it moves, it will not be a stumble, it will be a strike. If State House is not sweating reading this, listening to this, to the statement, then they need to read it again. But wait, let us talk about the audacity of this moment. Can we just pause for a moment and appreciate the comedy of what is happening here? Emerson Mnangagwa is in Belarus on a $500,000 jet, visiting Europe's most sanctioned dictator, trying to secure his political future while his own constitution is being challenged in court. And while he is doing all of that, one of his own generals, a man his government tried to threaten back into silence using the reserve force as a leash, has hopped on Twitter and essentially published a public notice saying, "We are coming. We don't know when, but we are coming. Enjoy Belarus." Zimbabwe. When Mliswa tried to silence Mapranga by raising the reserve force as a threat, suggesting retired generals could be recalled to shut them up, Mapranga responded, "You raise the reserve force as though it were a leash. Threatening retired generals with recall as a consequence of public comment is not loyalty to the commander-in-chief. It is the behavior of a bully who has mistaken proximity to power for power itself." A bully who has mistaken proximity to power for power itself. Family, that sentence is so good, I want to frame it. Themba Mliswa, a man who has never worn a uniform in his life, tried to intimidate a lieutenant general using military protocol. And Mapranga basically responded, "Say, I was commanding troops before you learned to tie your shoes. Sit down." Themba udo. Garai pasi ana Themba. Kwenda mchuda kutanga mzindo. Alright, the bigger message, what the generals are actually saying. Strip away the careful language, the strategic patience, and the disciplined tone. And what Mapranga is really telling Zimbabwe is something far simpler and far more powerful. ZANU-PF is not merely a political organization. It is a liberation movement forged through armed conflict. The military did not emerge from the part emerged from the military. And the men who built the military, who bled for it, who sacrificed for it, are watching a politician try to use it to extend his personal rule past its constitutional expiry date. And they are not happy. Mapranga has declared publicly and on record that VP Constantino Chiwenga is destined to become Zimbabwe's next president. Full stop. He dismissed any talk of delaying elections beyond 2028 and called CAB 3 a calculated move to block Chiwenga's rise rather than a genuine development agenda. Vanabev, that is not analysis. That is not speculation. That is a retired lieutenant general publicly backing a succession outcome on a social media platform while the sitting president is in another country on a secret trip. In what universe is this normal? In Zimbabwe's universe, exclusively. Right, the bottom line, the calm before the storm. Mapranga ended his message with 6 words that should be printed on billboards across Harare. Stay calm, stay vigilant, stay ready. Not protest now, not take to the streets, not burn it down. Stay ready. The generals are not reacting. They are not being emotional. They are not being baited by noise or rushed by pressure. As Mapranga himself said, "I have held my tongue when discretion demanded it. I am holding it no longer." A man who held his tongue for 30 years just decided to speak. And he chose his words with the precision of someone who spent 3 decades learning exactly when to fire and exactly where to aim. Zimbabwe, the calm before the storm is real. The generals have spoken. The courts open May 20th. Parliament reopens June 2nd. And somewhere between Minsk and Harare, on a $500,000 jet, a president is doing the maths and hoping the numbers still work in his favor. Pano pamzinda wevanhu, we will be here when they don't. Subscribe to channel yevanhu, Zimbabwe's most unapologetically bold voice. Is this the calm before the storm? What do you think General Mapranga's message really means? Drop your take in the comments. Smash the like button, share this everywhere, and support independent journalism through join and super thanks. Stay ready, family, just like the general said. Thank you for watching. Peace.